Welcome to the groundbreaking podcast that will reshape your life. Get ready for an inspiring journey of self-discovery and personal transformation. This is Redesign Your Reality with me, your host, the seasoned entrepreneur and spiritual guide, Randy Lyman.
So Randy, there are plethora of books about positive thinking, but positive thinking isn't always enough. A lot of us are like, okay, I'm thinking positive. Things just aren't panning out. What do you tell someone who's struggling with the whole positive thinking idea and making that actually happen and work for them?
That was me for the first year of learning about spiritual principles. I did everything I could to think positive, to do the right things, to eat the right things. And I was on the path, and my life was going to be wonderful because I changed my mind and I was seeing what I wanted. And law of attraction was going to take me to a beautiful life. And I just kept hitting wall after wall after wall. And then after a few emotional breakthroughs and making the connection of emotional healing to no longer having to deal with a lot of the challenges in my life, then it got better. And when I look back at it, it was so obvious to me, wrong, but obvious, that, hey, I just have to think positive and everything will work. And so many people talk today about positive thoughts and how if we can just change our thoughts, our world's going to be better. So a lot of people are very into that for a good reason. If you go back, clear back to the early 1900s, Think and Grow Rich, Wallace Wattles, As a Man Thinketh, all those books are valid. So our thoughts are going to guide us and make our life better, but they won't heal our emotions. And as long as we have unhealed emotions, the law of attraction, the universe has the obligation to bring us challenges into our life that are going to remind us of those unhealed emotions.
So if I sit here and I'm just like, let's say I walk into a room and it's gloomy, people in there are clearly upset, but I bring positive energy and I think positively and I share positive stories, does that still work in a way?
Yes, because the key word is energy and not just thought. So energy to me, our thoughts have energy, but real energy to me that we can express and share with others is typically heartfelt. It's typically emotionally related. It's typically a place for positive results, it's a place of love. Okay, I'm in a place where I'm going to send out love to people and positive feelings, thoughts as well, positive feelings. I'm going to feel positive within myself, and I'm going to emanate that out, and I'm going to share that with everybody in the room. I don't even have to tell them. So if I'm in an emotional place of good feeling, then I can share that energy. If I'm in thoughts of good feelings or thoughts of good things and good ideas, it doesn't have near the same energy for two reasons. One is I know our emotional energy is so much bigger than our mental energy, but when we think about it and feel it, we have the two. To really manifest well, the best way is our thoughts, our actions, and our emotions are all in alignment. So even if I'm not necessarily interacting with people, and on the physical aspect, if I'm in the same room and I'm thinking positive thoughts and I'm feeling positive emotions and I'm spreading that love through the idea and the best I can through feeling it in my body and sharing it, then the room will change.
You do this thing where I'm thinking about a question and then you answer it before I have to ask it. It's fantastic. So let me ask you, we talk about the law of attraction. You touched on this a little bit already, but what makes emotions the third missing element? What is it about emotions that is just missing in everything else that's out there about the law of attraction?
Well, first of all, I think that a lot of the teachers and writers and gurus who have really evolved did it in a way either it was so slow over time they didn't realize what happened, or they came into this lifetime. I'm a big believer in reincarnation. They came into this lifetime relatively evolved. They just had a small step to go. I don't think many people so far have expressed their experiences like I've experienced. Now, there's a lot of teachers today who are saying the same thing as me. The emotional side of being human is the most important side. And they're saying the same thing I am, which is our emotional wounds can have a negative impact on our life until we heal them. But if we don't go through the experience of, oh, I had this emotional release, I released this old emotional pain, and then suddenly something in my life changes, in my relationships, in my physical reality, in my circumstances, then they can make the correlation. But if we don't have the situation where we had the emotional release and we have the opportunity to correlate that emotional healing with a change in our physical reality, then we have no data to lead us to that conclusion.
So you believe in past lives. Do you believe that the traumas that we're experiencing are traumas that we're meant to experience, or do you think that they just happen to us?
Okay, so most of the traumas that happen to us that are really big traumas, I believe, are the result of our soul chose those traumas for the experience, for the learning, and for the growth. So before we come down for this lifetime, we look at the brochure and we look at the menu of options and I can have abandonment or betrayal, and I'm going to have this situation come up, and that looks like it'll be a great obstacle to overcome. So this is what I'm going to choose for this lifetime. So that's part of it, is our soul wants these challenges so it can have the experiences, so it can just be deeper in its character. And then as humans, we come down here and we make bad choices because we're human. We don't know any better all the time. And we make bad choices and we have trauma because of that. So it's a mix of both.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. Do you think that there's a way to avoid certain traumas and they're almost self-inflicted?
Yes, there are ways to avoid bad decisions once we learn, but the only way to get the experience to avoid bad decisions is to make bad decisions and get the experience first. So we have no choice but to make bad decisions when we're inexperienced, and we have no choice but to go through the challenges before we learn. That's why we're here. We're not here for it to be just a beautiful life of all bliss and wonder and happy every day. Yeah, it's great when it is, but that would be boring, and our soul wants a bigger experience and our personality wants a bigger experience. If I go swimming, and I love warm water. If I go swimming in a pool, it's 86 degrees. I like to go swimming for 40 minutes. It's wonderful. I'm happy. But if I had to swim for 3 months, no, I don't want that. I want contrast. If I understand cold water, I appreciate the warm water. If I understand hot water, I appreciate the warm, comfortable water. If I understand being alone, then I appreciate having somebody to spend time with. So in order for us to experience good, we have to experience bad. In order for us to learn how to do the right thing, we have to do the wrong thing. In order for us to have compassion for somebody else that's done the wrong thing, we can't have compassion necessarily unless we've gone through the same challenges. So if I have a personal problem I've gone through and I've overcome that, when I see somebody else with that same problem, I have compassion for them. I can help them. I can at least have some empathy for them. But if I haven't gone through that, I have no way to understand what they're going through.
I love that. That's actually one of the things I've been talking about a lot recently with friends and family, is that if we haven't lived certain experiences, it doesn't allow us to teach others and help others grow through those experiences. And so those experiences, however challenging, are here to shape us, to refine us, and to allow us to help others along their journey as well.
And some of the people I've met in the last year, they've gone through some really, really horrendous challenges in their life. And it's been clear to me through what I see is now that they've been through those huge, painful challenges in their life, they can have not only empathy and compassion for another, they can tell the other person, you can overcome this. It was horrible. I went through the same thing as you. And yes, it sucked, but here I am today, and I've made my life work, and I've found love, and I've found a sense of wonder again, and I've found hope, and I've found gratitude. And even though I experience all these awful challenges, here I am today in front of you, a person who enjoys life, and there is hope.
Yeah, I think if everything was so beautiful and, roses and just positive, we would just live a very robotic life. There would be nothing to look forward to because everything is just always beautiful.
We want challenge. We come here for challenge. We come here to overcome challenge. We come here to understand that love is the answer, And so in order for us to understand love as the answer, we have to see brute force as the answer. We have to see denial as the answer. And they're not the answer. We see that brute force is not the answer, or it's limited. We see that denial is not really an answer. It's limited. And we experience all these challenges, all these limitations, all these less than optimal ways of dealing with our problems and our challenges. And we realize at some point in time when I come back to love and surrendering to God's guidance and grace and help, then we've learned what we've come to learn. And along the way, we make a lot of mistakes. That's the whole plan.
Yeah, challenges are an incredible catalyst for growth, and they are a blessing. You talk a lot about whenever you're confronted with something that activates you, it being a gift. Why don't you share more about that? Because the gift is what's catapulting you into growth.
Well, because challenges are the only path to growth. Without challenges, there is no growth. How can we become stronger? By climbing over something or climbing through something or working our way through a challenging situation. Then we become stronger. Then we become smarter. Then we become more experienced. We become of deeper character. Our whole life is so much deeper when we have an opportunity to find our strength by overcoming our challenges. And as you said, if everything was all roses, it would be boring. And that's not what we're here for. Do we enjoy those challenges? No, we don't enjoy all those challenges. But at some level, we've chose the challenges, either because the challenges my soul chose for me in order to have those experiences to become deeper, through bad decisions I've made, which have caused me to understand good decisions, or because I've had hope for something more that I wasn't sure if I could reach or not. And I set the goal and I went after the goal and I achieved the goal. And now achieving that goal is so amazing because I learned along the way and I feel good after I've achieved it.
Mm-hmm. You know, what keeps coming to mind right now is the story of Adam and Eve and how there was this idea of life being beautiful and there was no sin and there was no worry. But it was always by design that Eve would eat from the tree. It was always by design in God's plan that we would sin and that we would have to learn to overcome and have that knowledge of good and evil. Because without evil, we can't experience the good, right? Or like it's that, let me rephrase that. You know what I mean, right? Like it's not that we need evil to experience good, but you need that contrast, like you were saying earlier.
We need evil to understand the answer is not from brute force. As long as we respond to evil with force or with our mind, we never overcome evil. When we respond to evil with love, then evil loses its power. Evil is only as strong as it needs to be for our personal lessons. When we get through our personal lessons around evil and we can respond from a place of love for ourselves or for the world or even for the person doing us harm, and we see the bigger picture and we find a way for forgiveness and seeing that I'm gaining something positive from this really crappy situation, we get to that place, the evil loses its power and goes away.
So bringing us back to positive thinking, one topic that keeps coming to mind in my life, or just I keep hearing is, man, someone did something malicious to me. Someone really did me wrong. And I know I'm called to love them. And I know I'm called to forgiveness, but I just can't do it. Is positive thinking the answer? Like, how does somebody get through that when they're really feeling wronged?
Positive thinking will never get us through that because it's an emotional challenge. What we experience that we hang on to is not the thoughts of what happened. It's the feeling of what happened. It's the emotional wound. Or if it's positive, we'll hang on to the positive, and that's not a problem. But if it's a problem from the past, there is an emotional wound associated. So I am absolutely certain that any challenge, any problem we have in life has an emotional origin, is of an emotional origin, related to an emotional wound. So to restate that a little better, you can call it the Randy certainty principle. I am certain that any challenge we have in life, any problem we have is related to an emotional wound. And we have the power to go back and deal with that emotional wound and find a way to heal it and remove the problems from our life.
Emotions are a gift.
Absolutely, because without bad emotions, what people would label as bad, we couldn't have the contrast. Everything in this life is contrast. And everything is a choice and everything leads us back to love. But without the bad emotions, we don't learn to overcome things and we don't appreciate and have gratitude for the wonderful emotions in our life.
What do you think about this idea of emotions carry frequencies? I've seen those frequency charts where there's different levels of frequency based on the emotions. What are your thoughts on that?
So it's true, but it's not important what frequency they carry. What's important is that we go back and feel them completely and let them go. So people say, oh, we can work our way through, or we can work our way back up from bad emotions to good emotions. I say no. I say the only way to get through a bad emotion is to feel the bad emotion completely, 100%. Dive in, feel the pain, cry the tears, let it go. We can't just work our way back up towards a good emotion because we never process through the energy that's creating the vibration of that negative frequency, which is the old emotional wound. The old emotional wound can be healed and released once it's felt, but we can't just think our way away from it.
But I think there are people that live perpetually in an energy of anger, for example, or they live perpetually in an energy of fear, when the hope is to process those emotions so that they can get to this place of love and live in that energy of love. Is that the goal?
Absolutely. But if they don't process completely, if they don't dive completely into the pain, then they can't burn off that stored energy. So the frequency that's being created by that old emotion, it takes energy to drive that frequency, to drive that part of us that interacts with the world, that brings us our challenges. So it's like gasoline. We can store gasoline for 10 or 20 years and the gasoline will still burn, but once we burn it, it's gone. You can't burn gasoline twice. So those emotional wounds are the same way. When we go back and feel those wounds and we feel that pain completely, it's gone. And the memory of it goes away. The memory of our good emotions stay with us forever. The memory of love and warmth and caring and all those positive memories, they stay with us. Love is real and everything else is an illusion. That's a whole other conversation. But the pain that we feel is released once we feel it completely and immediately replaced with love. It's just instantly. As soon as we cry the tears or let go of the pain in whatever way we can, physically through our body, we can't do it through our mind, in the present moment, then the love rushes in to replace that.
But to be clear, when you talk about gasoline and it burning and it being burnt once and for all, it's not going to be a one and done. It's going to probably, you're burning a little bit of gas, a little bit of gas, a little bit of gas. And so finally you've released it.
So on something huge, it's possible we'd burn a lot of gasoline off and we'd let it go. The challenge is, if I have an emotional experience when I'm 6 years old, that's the root cause. If I'm lucky enough to go back and heal that, then maybe the reenactment of that when I'm 12 and when I'm 18 or whenever, and whatever age it comes up, the energy of those might be released at the same time. But if I've re-experienced that same emotional wound over and over again throughout my life without healing it completely, then I may have to go through a few iterations of feeling that original wound or the subsequent reminder wounds before I release it completely. But I can tell you the larger releases I've had have been very significant and very impactful. And when the problem came back in a different form, competence, betrayal, whatever it was so much easier to deal with after the first deep dive into that emotion.
Fantastic. Do you have any parting words about positive thinking and just emotions in general?
Well, the positive thinking is absolutely necessary as part of the process and absolutely necessary for a positive life, as are the emotions. So we have to do really both. We have to think positively. We have to deal with our emotional wounds, and we have to act in a way that we live a clean life with our body and our health, how we interact with the environment. And in order to feel our emotions, we have to be present in our body in the current moment, in the present moment, in the now, to work through the emotions. Our emotions come through our body. They won't come through our mind. So think positive, act positive, and be willing to dive into the negative.
It's really a holistic approach, right?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you for this conversation, Randy.
Thank you for your questions.